Good afternoon. It's McCollum on business on this what's supposed to be a rainy Friday and weekend. A little bit so far here in Central Phoenix. Hopefully it's dry where you are, at least for now. But we do know that it's coming our way. Of course, during this next 30 minutes or so, we're going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world. No shocker here. Government shutdown still continuing. Doing a lot of the news, but something has creeped in to spook the markets today, and that's President Trump and China kind of battling it out here on the terms of the tariff side. We have those stories coming up for you. The stocks we're paying attention to coming up, along with the market watch, and of course, local, national stories you need to know going into this rainy weekend here in Phoenix. And let's get it all started with that market watch. We have the stories coming your way, but basically, Trump is threatening massive tariff hikes on China all over this rare earths dispute and the meeting that's coming up between President Trump and President Xi of China as well. That is spooking the market, as you can imagine. Look at this. Dow Jones down 591 points here today. 45,781 for the Dow Jones. S&P 500 down 122 points right now to 6612. The NASDAQ, that tech-heavy index, down also 553 points. I thought I was reading the Dow again here with how close those are. 548 points for NASDAQ right now to 22,478. And then the Russell 2K, that small cap index, down 56 points right now to 2418 for the Russell 2K. Bitcoin, obviously not faring any better. Down today as well. It was up at that high at 125,000 earlier this week. 123,000 last couple days. 117,592 for Bitcoin here today as well. And it's all based around the tariff talk going between China and the United States right now. Stocks we're paying attention to, believe it or not, there's some decent ones out there to look at in terms of growth. But the first one we're going to look at is Levi Strauss, obviously a denim apparel maker. You guys know Levi's. Well, they're down big today, 10.88%. It issued weaker than expected earnings guidance for their fourth quarter. Levi Strauss sees quarter four earnings in the range of 36 cents per share. They said between 36 and 38 is the range that they give. Analysts were expecting 41 cents per share for Levi Strauss, and that's why they're down 10.84% today, along with the general sell-off that is happening based off of these tariff concerns in the marketplace. Next stocks we're going to look at, well, the rare earth stocks out there. So we're going to show you MP Materials right now. They're up 14.05% here. They're not the only ones up. U.S. rare earth is up today as well, about the same 14% as well. Why are the rare earth stocks up today? Well, they're up because President Trump said China was holding the world captive, is how he phrased it, over the minerals. We told you yesterday that the Chinese government was restricting their lithium battery stuff and those rare earth metals in terms of exporting. Well, now President Trump is threatening countermeasures here, which, of course, means more focus on MP Materials, USA Rare Earth, Lithium Americas. We've talked about them before as well. They're all going to be going up based off of, more reliance on domestic mining, I guess I could say, domestic usage here of those rare earths instead of importing those in from China, which there's going to be restrictions on. Maybe. We'll see where that goes. Next stock we're going to look at is Amazon out there as well. Now, Amazon's what we're going to show you. There are other stocks we'll talk about here in this group, but we're going to talk about the Magnificent Seven stocks right now. These are those mega cap tech stocks. Well, they're down a big today in terms of their relevance. All down well over 1% as the day's gone on. 3.82% right now for Amazon. Well, what's happening here? Well, that threatened massive tariff on China as well is hurting the Magnificent Seven stocks today as well. All over 1% down. You see Amazon at 3.83% right now. NVIDIA is down 1.5%. Apple's down 2%. All because of that threat of a massive tariff hitting China from the U.S. side coming up, affecting those stock markets as well. So the story here on this Friday, well, it's all doom and gloom out there with the tariff talk happening in terms of these stocks, with the rain, etc. Just another Friday here in the USA here in terms of the business world. When we come back later on, we're going to look at stocks like Rocket Lab. Protagonist Therapeutics is in the news here as well, and then Applied Digital. We'll talk about those three companies and why we're paying attention today here on the stock market as well. And, then we get into those stories kind of told you about already, but some more details here. Specifically, President Trump saying saying earlier this morning on Friday that, quote, there seems to be no reason, unquote, to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping as part of that upcoming trip to South Korea, where their meeting is scheduled to happen. President Trump also threatened those additional tariffs after China restricted exports of those rare earths that, of course, the American economy deeply relies on and needs. Of course, President Trump suggested that he was looking at the massive increase on import taxes on Chinese products in response to those moves made over there by China and in terms of the rare earth restrictions. It is possible that could amount to either posturing by the U.S. or, for the negotiation side, or it could go all the way up to that retaliatory step that could foster new fears about the stability of the global economy as China and the U.S. fight over those tariffs if we get to that level. The big question here is it posturing or is it actual threats happening out there? The United States and China have been jostling for advantage in trade talks, especially after the import taxes announced earlier this year triggered the trade war between the two large economies. Both nations agreed to kind of take down those tariffs, right, and take down the talks around the tariffs after negotiations in Switzerland, United Kingdom over the last couple months. But the tensions continue to remain high as China has sought to restrict America's access to difficult to mine rare earths that we need here for a lot of U.S. technologies, batteries, national security items out there as well. And China knows that, and they're taking advantage of the situation. Trump did not formally cancel that meeting with President Xi of China, so much as an indication that it might not happen as part of the trip there that he has at the end of the month in Asia. The trip was scheduled to include a stop into Malaysia, and that's hosting that Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. There's going to be a stop in Japan and a visit to South Korea coming up as well. That was when he was slated to meet with President Xi ahead of that Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit at that time. So we'll have to see. Is it posturing? Will China back off a little bit here on these threats? Will they continue through to them and cause a retaliation? Well, that's what's got the market spooked here today in terms of the sell-offs happening. And China's not only doing that with the rare earth minerals, the United States is responding, at least verbally only right now. But now China has put into place, and they've hit U.S.-owned vessels docking in China with basically tit-for-tat port fees. We know America is putting fees on the Chinese companies coming up on October 14th. And so this is in response to the American government's planned port fees on those Chinese ships. So now we got more retaliation coming on before these trade talks happen between the U.S. and China at the end of the month. So vessels owned or operated by American companies or individuals, the ships built in the U.S. or even flying the American flag, well, they're going to be subjected to a 400 won, which is $56 about American dollars, per net ton fee per voyage if they dock in China. China's Ministry of Transport announced all of this earlier today on Friday. The fees would be applied on the same ship for a maximum of 5 voyages each year. They would rise every year until 2028. That's when it would hike up to $157 per net ton, which is 1,120 won as well. They would take effect on October 14th. And folks, this is the same fees, the same date, and everything that the U.S. fees are going to go into effect as well. So they're just matching what we're doing on our side. Chinese Ministry of Transport did say in a statement earlier today that its special fees on American vessels, that they are actually countermeasures in response to wrongful U.S. practices, is how they phrased the wording there as well. So look, tit for tat, battle for battle here as the battle for the upper hand here in the tariff negotiations. continues on here between these two countries. And that's what big part on why the market is doing what it's today with this big sell off happening as well. So, like I said, we showed you earlier, and we'll show you again coming up. Dow down over the 500 points. S&P 500, biggest fall since April when the Liberation Day tariffs actually came into effect. So, look, it's going to be a rocky weekend going into Monday. We'll see if anybody backs off. If it ratchets up a little bit more in terms of the tough talk, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. And come on back on Monday, of course, at 11 o'clock for any updates over the weekend. And now let's talk a little bit about the FAA, right? That Federal Aviation Administration. It issued an update operations plan on Thursday, and it's outlining how staffing shortages and weather are continuing to impact air traffic control facilities nationwide. Now, a lot of this also has to do with the government shutdown. We're following this specific industry in terms of the shutdown side. We told you yesterday about the IRS and how it's being affected by this government shutdown. But the operations side, the FAA put out yesterday, and they said at least 9 ATC facilities were identified by the FAA as affected by staffing shortages and weather. So we look at those 9 of Newark, Hartford Bradley Airport as well, Washington, D.C., then you got Boston Northeast Airport there, Roanoke, Virginia Tower being affected, Chicago Tower, which is O'Hare specifically, but that whole Chicago Tower, Central Florida also being affected. Then you go out here to the west, Albuquerque Center, which covers Arizona and New Mexico, folks, is on this list, and then Indianapolis as well on this list here. So if you're flying anytime soon, you know people that are flying, prepare for delays coming up here. If you didn't notice, in a lot of those cities, a lot of big air traffic controller areas controlling large spaces, lots of aircraft. Delays are coming, and I believe the government strike isn't going to end, or the government shutdown isn't going to end until the public pressure about air traffic control and that industry as a whole is going to push this to an end. And is it going to be sooner or later that it comes up is the question, because there's no end in sight, in this government shutdown at all. Both sides have dug into whatever they're saying out there as well. We've done a lot of talk here at McCollum on Business on gold, right? It's up over $4,000 right now, record numbers for it, but it's not the only precious metal going through the roof and hitting records. Yeah, if gold's a little too pricey for you, or you think it's gotten too high, take a look at silver here. But silver prices have surged about 75% this year. Obviously, it's been boosted by investors that are seeking basically a lot of safe havens instead of stocks in the market itself, plus strong industrial demand and lingering supply deficits for the silver as well. Spot silver prices have hit a record high of $51 per troy ounce on Thursday. It breached that $50 threshold for the first time since 1980, last time it hit that level. Traders have turned to hard assets like gold and silver this year because they're safe investments and tools to hedge against geopolitical instability, the tariffs, for instance, economic uncertainty, just what the consumer sentiment is here in the United States. Story coming up on that here as well here in just a little bit. But then also you got all the concerns specifically about inflation, but also what the Federal Reserve and their independence, what they're going to do. Are they going to keep cutting rates as well? And then obviously the government debt numbers are scaring a lot of investors. So that's why they're turning to, these hard asset metals and things. Silver's been on this huge run here this year. As I said, 75% up this year, supported by momentum from gold's record-breaking rally. The metal is considered cheaper, silver is, alternative, a safe haven investment to gold. As we know, gold's over that $4,000 a troy ounce for the first time ever here in the last week or so. So silver also going up. I can tell you copper is expecting and kind of going up as well, although not to those same levels. So a lot of people turning to that, and which means anytime gold and these metals go up, it means the economy not looking good in the eyes of people switching over to that stuff as well. And we talk a lot about renewable energies. We, of course, know the Trump administration is moving away from renewable energies. Well, we have an official here, at least in terms of the global supply of renewable energies, and it's for the first time, those renewable energies have actually overtaken coal as the primary source of electricity around the world. This is a new report that's out, and it indicates a shift in the global reliance on environmentally harmful fossil fuels, like coal, for instance. Renewable energy contributed 34.3% of all global electricity generated in the first half of 2025. Coal fell to 33.1% in that same time frame. The energy think tank Ember is the one that came out with this study and published it. Renewable energies include obviously wind, solar, hydro. Coal and natural gas are considered the fossil fuels. Populous developing countries like China and India, well, they actually led the charge in adding more renewable energies as well. Shocker, because we hear a lot of pollutants right out of China and India as they're building up their economies. Western societies, though, well, that includes the European Union, the United States. Well, a lot of their increased electricity demand is through the use of fossil fuels to make up for the missing part in terms of electrical. Like when you need a big growth, you don't go to renewables, you go to the coals and the natural gases, which are a little bit quicker to peak up. But global coal generation, it fell 0.6% in the first half compared to the same period a year earlier. China has been the biggest and largest driver to move to renewable energy sources. 55% of global solar generation growth for China. If you want to know what the United States is, by contrast to China, well, it's just 14%. So China's outgrowing us here in those renewable energy sides of things. Renewables, well, they might slow down in the United States. As we know, the Trump administration's moving to sharply reduce clean energy development, go back to coal and support coal as well. So we're at 14%, way behind China, and India is also a high number. And now it could go a little bit less here with the Trump administration's stance on renewable energies and everything. And, we were talking earlier here about gold, silver, and the prices, and a lot of that's being driven by consumer sentiment here. And we have this is a private report here from the University of Michigan. We talk about this report a lot, but we're still getting the private ones, even though we're not getting the government ones right now. But overall consumer sentiment, it moved from 55.1 in September and moved down a tick, 0.1 tick here, to 55 in October. As I said, this is all part of that University of Michigan's preliminary survey of consumers, but sentiment is down 22% from the same time last year. Interviews with survey respondents offered little evidence that the federal government shutdown has so far contributed to the sluggish consumer sentiment. So they're saying that that's not even factored into this yet from the consumer side. Americans instead are caring most about pocketbook issues. High prices, weakening job prospects specifically is what is on us as consumers' minds. Though American spending does remain solid, inflation and the unemployment rate, well, they're ticking higher as consumers increasingly express concerns about economic conditions. The New York Federal Reserve's Consumer Expectation Survey, well, that came out earlier this week. It showed respondents see higher prices and greater unemployment in the future. They don't expect it to come down at all. They're ready for it to hit. So consumer sentiment still not in a good place as well. And that's not good overall for the market here, not just on the inflation side and prices of things, but also on job prospects out there as well. And when we come back here at McCollum on Business, well, maybe we can find some positive stories out there. Well, I know we got one coming up here on some misuse by Maricopa County Sheriff's Office in terms of funds. But if you like baseball, get some cheap baseball, some young stars. I'll tell you about that and more. Come on back, McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business. Appreciate you joining us here on this Friday. Rain's a-coming, so be ready for that. Hopefully you can wrap up your Friday in a positive mood here as well and get home if whether you're on break or not and school starts back up again on Monday or you're just on vacation. Well, brace yourselves for what's coming up here. And, you just saw the ads there, right? The Real Matrix. It is premiered here at Robat TV. First 3 episodes are up at Robat TV. As well, starting this Wednesday coming up, we're going to start debuting a new episode every Wednesday at noon here at Robat TV. So stay tuned for that. If it's the programming you'd like, you can catch the first 3 episodes with the Angry Patriot. Of course, you got Dale Hellestrate coming in and joining him for a couple of the episodes as well. On demand right now, Robat TV. It's got its own channel. You'll see it at the front page there. On the YouTube channel. We had to do some copyright stuff and everything. It will be released on YouTube as well later on today. For those of you that follow our YouTube channel and catch the shows on demand there is a free podcast system for The Real Matrix as well on Podbean. Right now, only on Podbean. We're waiting for the links to come back for more, but that is out there. And starting Wednesday, every Wednesday at noon, moving forward, a new episode coming your way. As well. So looking forward to that. If that's your type of programming, check that out. Of course, you also have the Pit Stop, race-based programming there. You're leading toward the NASCAR season wrapping up here in the next 4 weeks. Of course, 4 weeks from now, I should say, we'll be here in Phoenix for the championship race coming here as well. And the Look Ahead show is up at Robat TV on YouTube right now. And of course, on Podbean, just search at the Pit Stop Talk. On Podbean, the podcast version comes up, which is just sound only. YouTube, it's up right now in terms of what we put out there. Check that out as well. And then, of course, you got the main event live 8 to 10 a.m. here at Robat TV on YouTube as well. Free on demand there. Free on demand here at Robat TV. And then all your favorite podcast systems, you can find that show. Me and 17-year NFL veteran Dale Hellestrate talk a lot of footballs on Friday this time of year. We mixed in some other things happening around town. Mercury, big game downtown here, 5 p.m. tonight. Do they continue the championship run here or they get eliminated tonight? Lots of high school football talk, ASU on the road. Big quarterback issues with them. Of course, same thing with the Cardinals. So if you missed it live, 8 to 10, on demand, Robat TV on YouTube right now, and your favorite podcast system as well. And this show, as soon as we're done here, we'll get it up on YouTube and on the demand at Robat TV as well. And let's get back into this depressing Market Watch. Trump's, as I told you to start off the show in the first stories, Trump's threatening tariffs. He accuses Beijing of holding the world captive. Tariffs could go on there. Big retaliation side of stuff. Everything is down today on the market. Nothing's gotten any better. Dow Jones down 534 points. S&P 500 down 113. The Nasdaq's down 575. The Russell 2K, the small cap index, is down 50 points right now as well. Bitcoin down from that 125,000 record it was at earlier this week. 117,788 for Bitcoin here today. So the government shutdown's the least of people's worries. The Chinese threats and everything, tariffs, etc., are the biggest things on investors' minds here on this Friday as we get into late trading day. And stocks we're paying attention to now, well, a company called Rocket Lab. They've been a couple times. We haven't talked about them on the show, but I have been watching this stock this week. They're up 0.86% right now as well. I could tell you before the big sell-off happened, because this morning the market was actually up for a little bit, and then the Trump threats against China happened, and it all reversed. They were up over 4% earlier today. Well, Rocket Lab has secured contracts for multiple launches with the Japan's Aerospace Exploration Agency. They got another contract for some more launches here in the United States earlier in the week, and that's why this stock has risen more than 20% this week alone with these new contracts coming away. Up over 4% earlier, but right now at 0.78% here for Rocket Lab as they continue to get more contracts for what they do. Rocket launches here as well. Protagonist Therapeutics is the next stock we're going to look at. They're a pharma stock out there. Now, this stock here, well, it's up big today, 31.82% right now. And folks, look at that big uphill climb that it went on today, about 8 o'clock this morning as well. Well, the Wall Street Journal at that time, they reported that Johnson & Johnson was in talks to buy Protagonist Therapeutics. Once the Wall Street Journal reported that, you see the major growth here in this stock, 31.77% up as of right now for Protagonist Therapeutics. And then we got Applied Digital next up here. They're up big as well. They were up over 19% earlier today, 15.12% up right now. They're a data center builder. And they reported that revenue in its their fiscal first quarter, I should say, was up 84% from the comparable period last year. So huge revenue growth here, 84% here for this company. Well, you do that type of revenue growth, your stock's going to go up, and as they have, 14.95% up as of right now. And a lot of negativity here in the market today and on the business side, so scoured the internet here to try to find a positive one for you out there. And whether you're a baseball fan, you just like to get outdoors and enjoy our weather, our nice weather that we're getting right now. But once the rain goes away, it'll be nice and stuff. But baseball season's wrapping up. Playoffs are full effect right now. We talked about that on the main event earlier today. But at Major League Baseball, at least in terms of baseball side, does continue around the Valley because the Arizona Fall League is kicking off as well here. Well, the game's biggest stars are in right now. They're either home or they're like the Phillies. Got to do my dig there. Or, they're still in the playoffs here. But the little-known guys, the up-and-comers that are going to be big guys, well, they're right here in Arizona and specifically the Phoenix area. And it's not a big crowd. You can get up and close and personal with them as well in the Arizona Fall League. Minor leaguers, they make a small fraction of what their major league counterparts do in terms of money. You can make as low as $20,000 a year if you're in the rookie leagues. You can make up to $36,000 for, those that are just basically, close to the AAA level is what you're looking at. So from now until mid-November, 6 teams out there. Peoria, Salt River Rafters is where they're called. They're over here in the East Valley. The Peoria Javelina, Surprise Saguaros, Mesa Solar Sox, Scottsdale Scorpions, and the Glendale Desert Dogs. Yeah, they're playing what are normally spring training sites around the Valley here for the Fall League. The Fall League's been in Arizona for about 33 years now. They've seen the likes of a lot of big league stars that became big guys, but they were little-known guys when they were here. Nomar Garcia-Parra, Derek Jeter, Mike Piazza, Eric Pujols played in the Arizona Fall League. Roy Halladay, Max Scherzer, of course, eventually a Diamondback, and on. They've all played here before they were the big stars that they became as well on the way to their big leagues. So some fun here, some intimate baseball, kind of a spring training feel with a lot of these guys. Tickets for Fall League games, they're as cheap as $14 for adults. Obviously cheaper for younger people and seniors out there, but it is free for kids under 10, which is an important thing there as well. And now the kids have to be accompanied by an adult to get that free pricing. The games are all around the Valley here and started this week. They continue through November 15th. They do include a fall all-star game and a championship to finish the league as well in the Arizona Fall League. So something to do with family if you're into the sports and get outside, enjoy the weather. Like I said, after the rain moves through. So, and it's cheap. It's the old spring training before that got all pricey and expensive to watch them play out there. And you get to see the young stars. Someday you can look back and go, hey, I met that guy. And now he's a big leaguer and doing amazing things out there. So some positive happening if you want to find that out there. And now we got to talk a little bit about the sheriff's office for Metro Phoenix, MCSO. They reportedly spent millions of dollars budgeted for compliance costs in a racial profiling case. This is when Joe Arpaio's immigration crackdowns. Yes, they said they spent that money instead on things that had little to do with the court-ordered overhaul of the agency. An expert's report has come out releasing all this. It came out on Wednesday, and it criticized the use of compliance money by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to fund personnel costs and tasks, either in part or in full, but they were funding things that weren't connected to that overhaul that was required by the courts out there. It pointed out inappropriate spending $2.8 million for surplus body-worn camera licenses that went beyond the court's orders, $1.5 million in renovations in the relocation and the Internal Affairs Office, over $1.3 million to buy 42 vehicles, and an $11,000 golf cart. $11,000 golf cart, folks. You can get them a lot cheaper than that. But that was used to bring staff from headquarters to the Internal Affairs operation, even though the department was leasing parking space at the Internal Affairs Department. So instead of driving over and parking there where you're paying for it, an $11,000 golf cart would take them over there. For over a decade, Maricopa County taxpayers have picked up the bill for remedying constitutional violations found in that old 2013 profiling verdict over then Sheriff Arpaio's traffic patrols targeting immigrants. The racial profiling case centered on 20 large-scale traffic patrols that were launched by Arpaio that targeted immigrants from January of 2008 through October of 2011. That led to the profiling verdict, an expensive court-ordered overhaul of the agency's traffic patrol operations, and then later on its internal affairs unit. The county says $323 million has been spent so far on legal expenditures, a staff that monitors the Sheriff Department's progress and the agency's compliance costs. The county has said the total expected to reach $352 million by July of 2026. The federal judge presiding over the case expressed concerns about transparency in spending by the sheriff's office in order to review, leading to the blistering report from budget analysts. Sheriff Arpaio hasn't been there for a lot of years, and they're reportedly still misspending. The report was prepared by budget analysts picked by the case's monitor. The report concluded 72% of the $226 million in spending by the sheriff's office from February 2014 to late September 2024. They say it was either wrongly attributed or improperly prorated to a compliance fund in that time. As I said, years after Arpaio has been gone from there. Budget analysts who reviewed hundreds of employee records over roughly that same time period, they found an average of 70% of all positions funded by compliance money were inappropriately assigned or partially related to the compliance. Those expenditures were unrelated or an unnecessary part of the compliance. It lacked appropriate justification or even resulted from purposeful misrepresentation by the sheriff's office or county leaders, possibly both of them. The budget analysis was all written into this report. Beginning earlier this year, county officials ramped up their criticism of the spending. They said the agency should not still be under the court's supervision a dozen years after the verdict, or we shouldn't be paying the hefty bills to cover it up as well as what they're looking at. That includes about $30 million to those who monitor the agency on behalf of the judge since about 2014. $30 million to monitor this, $30 million to monitor it, and it's not being done appropriately, at least according to that study there. It's an amazing thing that we're looking at in terms of this spending and taxpayer money and what we're looking at from that perspective out there. And I just stop misspending money, man. And like I said, you can blame Arpaio all you want. He's been out of office for a long time, and they're still misrepresenting those funds out there. And I got a little bit of a good one here. If local pizza chain here from Phoenix, Spanatos. Well, they're giving employees a slice of the ownership pie, and I like to see these stories when they happen out there because employees work hard. Yes, the owners are responsible for it and all of that stuff. But the interesting thing about it is your employees are what make your business and what you need to do to be successful out there. So I like these types of stories and definitely want to give Spanatos a little bit of credit here as we wrap up on this Friday at the time. Now, Spanatos, like I said, is a Phoenix-based pizza chain. They're all over town. They're at the local where the Suns play over there at the Morgue, as I'm calling it. Mortgage, whatever it is. United Mortgage Center or Mortgage Matchup Center. I know. Too long of a name. We've been over that before as well. But Spanatos has added about 150 people to its ownership group. The Valley's Pizza restaurant, as I said, big one here. Lots of expansion. I've never been there, actually. I do have some gift cards that I've been given that I should probably eat there. They have 6 brick-and-mortar locations. As I said, they're at the Mortgage Matchup Center. They actually are out at State Farm Stadium as well for where they're located and have buildings for the events. Well, they announced this week it has transitioned 49% of the company ownership to its employees in an employee stock ownership plan. The Spinato family will keep the other 51% of ownership. Employee stock ownership plans, which are those ESOPs, right? The ESOPs you hear about. They're uncommon across business in general. Less than 1% of Arizona companies actually use the model, and they're rarely heard of for restaurant companies. That's why this is special, and we need to give Spinato's Pizzeria a little bit of love here as well. And, because of this, I'll probably be more inspired to hit them up and try their pizzas here as well, based off of this news. Spinato family felt that many employees already work as if they own the place, so why not give them a little bit of the ownership side as well? Here's the quote here. They say, at this point, we're 46 years in business, and when we look back at our success, we stood out. What stood out was it wasn't our success, it was their success. That's from Anthony Spinato. He's the CEO of the Spinato's Pizzeria and Family Kitchen. He told all this to the Business Journal in an interview. He went on to say, and I quote, "It was our staff and we understood that the reason why we're successful. Over the past 4.5 decades, Spinato said his family has seen a community build up around its restaurants with both patrons and employees, and they want to continue that community and reward it. He said it only makes sense to give back to those who contributed to that community and that growth as well." Spinato said he looked at other options that are supposed to help attract and retain employees. He said he didn't feel a bonus program did enough. He said, quote, "It's totally true ownership. We want them to feel like owners, and we want them to value them like owners. And we thought for everything we want to preserve and protect, it requires giving them ownership points," unquote. Spinato's doing something you don't see in the world. A lot of people don't want to give up ownership, even though obviously the Spinato family has majority control. Good job for Spinato stepping up in this side and getting this done. And congratulations to the employees. They're like I said, the Spinato family can take all the credit they want for the growth. It's all because of the employees that they got it. They recognized it. A bonus program, right? It's when your boss orders pizza in, for the week. Hey, here's your bonus. I ordered in a pizza lunch for you. And you're sitting there going, whatever, man. I worked 80-hour weeks for you, buddy. Good job for Spinato's here. And we'd like to leave on that positive turn here. And like I said, maybe I'll grab one of those gift cards I need to use and head over to Spinato's and spend that and maybe some more money over there as well. And I've never had it and try it out just for the positivity that they're putting there with their employees and taking care of them. And we'll have to see what the stock market does coming back on Monday, what happens in terms of these Chinese threats and retributions. Well, I'm going to go enjoy my weekend, enjoy yours as well. Let's come back here Monday at 11 o'clock, see what's updated around the world and everything. Enjoy the rainy weekend. Stay safe out there, everyone, but enjoy the cooler temperatures as well. We'll see you on Monday, 11 o'clock here on McCollum on Business.